Kathy, she invited me. She was like, hey, Adriana, you
Who's
want to come?
Kathy?
Kathy is the daughter.
The daughter of Don Carlos.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm over here. I'm like my mother. She always talks to me about people that I don't know.
En perengana.
I'm like,
You're
Mom,
¿quiénes son?
who are they?
Tu prima, ¿cuál? Tengo bien muchas.
Right? Todas se llaman Lupita.
You caught my attention as of late because you performed with Sol de Mexico in Riverside. So how long have you been crossing paths with them in this very professional context?
Oh, well, to be honest, the first time I performed with Mariachi Sol de Mexico, I want to say it was quite a while back. I used to be in a dance company called Grandeza Mexicana, and we used to work with them quite a bit back then for the Cerritos shows. And that was the first time, and I remember feeling so excited. I was like, oh my God, it's Mariachi Sol de Mexico, you know? And I think it's just amazing how now that I am dancing by myself, it's such an honor to be asked by Maestro Jose to join them when they do like the shows that are not Cerritos. So like, he's like, would you come in and do a solo performance? I'm like, of course, yes, thank you. So yeah.
And what was the routine and the repertoire that you had on this most recent performance, Riverside 2024?
So we basically do just 3 songs because it's, he always does a Veracruz. So it was, I believe we did, I always want to say Cascabel, it's not Cascabel. It's Coco.
Yes.
We do Coco. Willie has his solo on the part. We do Los Capires, which I love doing because I incorporated Carlos. I asked him if he would do like a little bit with me. Since I'm dancing by myself, and usually that's from Michoacan, and it's done with a partner, and they have like these paliacates, and they do like this cross movement. So since I didn't have a partner, I said, would you mind dancing with me? All you have to do is hold the rebozo, and we're just gonna, dance together for a little bit. He's like, yeah, he was totally down, and I loved it. And we just do the finale, which is El Son de la Negra.
I want to go back to when you first interacted with Ballet Folklorico. Do you remember some of the first times that you saw this art form and how it impacted you?
Oh, yes. So how far back do you want to go?
As far back as you can remember.
So if we go as far back as I can remember, like as a child, the first time I saw it, I want to say the first time I was introduced to Folklorico was actually through music, because I heard La Bamba, and that song like spoke to me, and I was like, oh my God, what is this, I remember being maybe about 4 or 5 years old. And where I grew up, we didn't really have any Folklorico, any really like arts. The only thing you would find was like traditional classical ballet or hip hop or, things like that. Like,
and where was this?
I grew up in Harbor City.
In Harbor City, okay.
Yeah. So the closest thing to me would either be in Lomita or San Pedro. They had San Pedro Ballet School, and they had a school in Lomita. And so one day in my elementary school, we had a Folklorico teacher. She was introduced as somebody that was going to teach the whole entire school for like a Cinco de Mayo type of thing. Wait, backtrack. I'm sorry. I believe it was first grade. My first dance I did was La Raspa, if that counts. So that was just da-dun, 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 and I messed up. There's a picture of it too. It was horrible. But anyway, but when that Folklorico teacher came, I think I was in 4th grade. Yeah, I was in 4th grade, and we did Veracruz, and we were doing La Bamba, and I was like, oh my God, that's the song, And I remember seeing her one day during recess time, and she was doing what I now know is carretillas. But back then I just see her moving her feet really fast, and I was like, what is she doing? And I went up to her and I was like, ¿Usted me puede enseñar a hacer eso? And she kind of was like, oh, mija, va a ser muy difícil para ti. And that kind of just like, it kind of like broke my heart. And I went home and I said, Mom, yo quería bailar así, quería bailar como la maestra me dijo que iba a ser muy difícil. She's like, oh, yo te voy a buscar donde bailar. So a few years later, it wasn't until I was in middle school, she found a teacher, a random. She asked this girl my mom talks to everybody. So she's like muy platicadora.
Uh-huh.
And she makes friends everywhere. And she happened to find this girl that was dancing folklorico. And she said it was in San Pedro, in a little classroom. And my teacher happened to be from Veracruz. And I was like, oh my God, if that's not, universe saying, here, you're gonna learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I got started. I was about 11 when I started, like, actually learning folklorico.
And what sort of things would they teach you in those particular classes, those first classes?
We started learning Jalisco. So he started teaching, since he already had dancers, they were all adults, by the way. I was the only 11-year-old, but I was so tall. I was taller than those adults that were there. So he would break down the steps. My sister was also taking class with me at the time, and he would teach us like zapateado de tres. So it's basically the pa-para, 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 the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's like the step that you use basically in all of Jalisco, like a zapateado de tres. And that's what I was learning. And then he would teach us, I learned how to do the carretillas. That wasn't even hard. That was probably the easiest step to learn. And then he started, he saw that I was getting it, because when a student is, when they show passion for something and they show that they really love it, like, you learn things quickly if you really have a passion for it.
Of course.
So I started learning how to do the steps, and he started putting me in the choreography. So I got to start performing, and that was so exciting. So yeah, that was the first region I learned. Even though I really wanted to learn Veracruz, I still hadn't learned it. But I learned Jalisco, and then from there we started learning different regions. And his group was rather new, so he started little by little growing his repertoire and building his costumes, because he would make his costumes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What characterizes the Jalisco repertoire, and what makes it different from Veracruz, among others?
There's many different factors. Like, if I were to show you a picture, you'd be like, oh, okay, night and day. Because Jalisco, typically, it's the skirts, for those that are not familiar, they're the ones you would typically see with the ribbons. The skirts are really long. They have the lace, and they have ribbons. Sometimes the blouse can be long sleeve or short sleeve. Usually it's all the way up to the neck. My dresses are more stylized. They're more, I broke the rules in a way, another way to say it.
More personalized?
Yes.
Okay.
So now you'll see that for different groups, especially here in LA, you'll see they have changed the whole traditional style. It doesn't even look like that anymore. They also wear botines. They wear botas. Botines are for boys. I'm sorry. They wear botas. They're laced boots. Although I don't like to wear the boots with the dress, so I wear shoes. And for Veracruz, it's more like lace. And because it's coastal, está en el, and I'm gonna say this, in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes. Yes, it
near
is.
the Gulf of Mexico. I guess this is something you have to keep in mind. Every costume for every region has to do with the climate and where they were.
That.
Yes. So in Veracruz, I've personally never been there. It's still on my bucket list, but it varies, right? And from what I know, it had a lot of Spanish influence. Most of the regions do, but that one in particular, they do wear like the peineta, and like their attire in particular they have like this brooch. It's very Spanish, but because the Spanish style was their fabric was thicker. For Veracruz, they kind of changed it to a lighter, more airy fabric, and that is why they use white. And it's a little more like el fondo is made out of cotton. This cotton, it's breathable, and it's one of my favorites, to be honest, the Veracruz, because I find it very sexy, very attractive, and it's like, oh, yes, I love it. And the movements, the steps, they're different as well. Veracruz is more traditionally because if you see ballet de Amalia Hernandez, oh, I mean, I love them too. I love both traditional and stylized. Amalia, especially when they do Morena, their arms are up here, you know, but Veracruz is typically here. And it's not so, no es tan aventado traditionally. If a group does that, that's their style. That's what they want to do. That's what it's a director's choice. If they want to move it like this, they want to do all this, that's up to them. But I try to keep it, if it's on a big stage, I will move more just because if I'm by myself and they have to see it all the way in the back, you know, but if it's in front of like a small audience, I try to keep it as a little more traditional because it doesn't you don't need all that extra, you know, extra like movement. Muchos grupos, and it looks beautiful. I feel like when you're on the stage and you have a lot of dancers, either way, if they're all looking the same, they're all doing the same movement, even if it's traditional, it's gonna look beautiful. But if they opt to do like the big turns with the arms open, like more stylized, it looks beautiful too, but just depends. You don't wanna, sometimes, how can I put it? If it's done the right way.
The big movements, if they're done the right way.
Yes,
okay.
If they're executed correctly. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because there's a difference. You still have to have some sort of technique, which is what later on I learned when I joined Grandeza Mexicana, which was really difficult for me actually, to go from traditional to stylized. It was a challenge.
So what characterized the stylized aspect of Grandeza Mexicana? What made their version of Ballet Folklorico unique in that sense?
Well, our director, Jose Vences, he used to be a dancer with Ballet Folklorico de Amalia Hernandez. So he already had that style in him. But what I really enjoyed about Grandeza Mexicana was that although we were stylized, he still tried to make his own choreographies and it still kind of had an essence of the traditional, but still making it a little extra, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
What about it was a little extra, to your point?
Okay, let me give you an example. I loved the Nayarit piece. When we would do Nayarit, oh, that was so beautiful. The whole cuadro was one of my favorites. I loved
When you say cuadro, what are you referring to?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. I do have to explain that. So cuadro, it's because it wasn't just one song that you would do. For Nayarit, we would do they would start with huichol. Huichol is a more indigenous type of dances, so more danzas. And we would tell a story. It would start off with, if I could remember correctly, they did a danza de venado, even though there's one for Sonora. I don't know if you've seen it with the guy, Amalia Hernandez does the Ballet Folklorico de Amalia Hernandez, but that's the most popular, that's what I'm saying. But it's a venado, and he's just like, he has these sonajas, and the hunters, they kill the venado. That's the story that's what they do in that dance. They did one for Nayarit, and that's how we started our piece with a venado, and then the hunters would go and find him, and they had these amazing looking masks. And even just the movements that they did. So it would start like that, and they would do a ceremony, and then we would come out with these big old, I don't know if you know what ojos de Dios are. They're these giant, I need to explain it.
It's okay.
They look like it's like a triangle, right? It looks like this, and it's made like with yarn. It has a pattern, and it's supposed to be like ojos de Dios. Like when you look at it, it's very, they have those quite a bit in Nayarit, like artesanías. If you go look around, when you see like little dolls holding these little ojos de Dios, we had little ones, the guys had the big one. And this dance, all we did, the movements were simple, but if somebody messed up, it would kind of ruin the whole thing. It was just like you open up, and then you close at certain times, and you open up. It's kind of like I want to say, como para Dios, you know, like a dance for the gods. I might be wrong, but at least that's how I felt it.
Right.
I felt. And it just felt really spiritual. And once we did all that, it goes into the mestizaje, which is when you get the costumes change. Because for those, we would wear huaraches. For the ojos de Dios, the danzas, and the skirts were more like what the women would wear in the campo. And we would wear like a headpiece, como un, not a velo, but kind of, you know, like a, I don't know.
Was it more like a scarf than a veil?
Not so much like a scarf, but you know, like the monjitas, like kind of like that. And then when we would change into like the mestizaje, the costumes changed. It got a little bit fancier, and we had an abanico that was also kind of shaped like a leaf. It's made out of like paja, and we wore shoes. The dresses, the blouses were silky. Our skirts were floral, and those, oh my goodness, really long, because Nayarit, the skirt work was a little more up here, which is traditional for Nayarit. It's a little higher. So that also separates each region. Dependiendo donde tienes la falda, the placement of the skirt is very important. That's how you can tell, oh, like that's Sinaloa, that's Nayarit, that's Oaxaca, that's, you know? And
Just from the costumes, you can tell the region.
That too, and the music. The music is very different as well. Jalisco has mariachi. Veracruz, mariachis can play it, but it's usually done with jaraneros, with the requinto, jarocho, jarana, the el arpa. They don't have any trumpets. The huichol, the Nayarit, it's a lot of violins, a lot of armonía. There aren't any trumpets really. It's more like guitar, maybe a vihuela, and violin, and maybe a cajon, I think. For Guerrero, they do that as well. They definitely use cajon for Guerrero. I love Guerrero, by the way. I love dancing to it. It's another one. If you don't ask me which is my favorite region, because I'm not going to be able to tell you. I love them all.
So, going back to Grandeza Mexicana, me encantaría saber con quiénes se presentaban.
¿Con quién nos presentamos?
Yeah, a veces acompañaban artistas o hacían sus propias presentaciones en nomás el ballet.
Ok, mucha gente me dice, especialmente mis papás, ¿por qué estás ahí? Porque ensayamos 4 días a la semana y eran horas muy largas y no era como un trabajo, o sea, you're not getting paid to be there. It's really more about this. I'm dedicated. This is what I want to do. And what you're getting out of it is so much greater than any financial gain, even though everybody needs to get paid, right? Entrenábamos usualmente para tener todo el año, para tener un show en el Ford y otro navideño al fin del año. Pero durante el año también teníamos presentaciones con artistas de vez en cuando. Recuerdo una vez que era para Luis Miguel y creo que en ese entonces era el Mariachi Sol de México. No estoy muy segura quién lo acompañó, porque yo sé que en estos recientes tiempos ha sido Mariachi Vargas, pero en ese entonces yo no... hold on. I didn't get chosen to be one of the dancers because apparently I'm only repeating what was said to me. They wanted dancers that were not taller than the artist. I don't know if things change now because I've seen dancers with him and they seem like they're my height. But back in the day, the dancers were more or less like 5'5".
That's
and
my
under.
height.
And I'm 5'7". So, and with the shoes,
5'10".
No, maybe 5'9".
Okay.
But still, I don't know how tall Luis Miguel is, but apparently they wanted dancers that were not going to be taller. I don't know. Point is, they only chose a few people, but they got to do the Luis Miguel shows. And that's amazing. I mean, that was great for the company. I got to do the Shyla. I got to do the Shyla concert at the Gibson, and that one I believe...
Gibson Amphitheater in LA?
Yeah, I think Sol was there. I want to say Sol was there. There was several mariachis, But back in the day, I wasn't really like now I know more musicians and more mariachis because I'm kind of more in that world. But back then it was strictly just folklore and strictly just that group. I was just focused there. And I want to say, yeah, because I want to say I saw Willie there. Because Willie and I go way back. And I want to say, I was like, hi, hermano. But that was pretty cool. We've also danced with Lupillo Rivera. Después de que Jenny Rivera, when unfortunately she passed away.
En paz descanse.
Yeah, en paz descanse. We did the show at it was a tribute for her. And it was at Nokia, which is something else now, right? They changed the name for the Nokia.
I don't know. I think it might still have the same name, the Nokia Theater in LA.
It was around that area, one of those theaters. And who else? Lila Downs. Lila Downs. I was her Katrina. That was really fun. I was like, oh my God. And I remember we did 2 nights at the Ford in LA. I was so nervous. I don't know. I was just so nervous to do that because I want to say the week of, the director was like, you're going to do this other song too. He's like, just listen to it and then feel it and then do it. I was like, okay.
I was going to precisely ask, how much direction are you given when you are meant to accompany an artist? Or is it sometimes like that where they're like, hey, listen to the song, figure it out?
No, it's usually not like that. But I was doing a solo. So for the solo, I'm grateful that he trusted me enough to say...
Who's he?
My director, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Jose Vences. I want to say he trusted me enough to say, do this. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Listen to it. I trust you, you know? Because that's basically what happened. We were doing Zapata Se Queda. And that one, he was already doing it with the chinelos. I don't know if you're familiar with chinelos.
Go ahead.
It's from the state of Morelos. And that's where our director, Jose Vences, was from. So the guys wear kind of like these big robes. And they wear like a mask and this big headdress. It looks kind of Russian or Jewish, you would say. And the mask has like a beard and they're all covered up. It's quite heavy too, the headdress. And they do a lot of movement like this, but it looks so cool with the song Zapata Se Queda. And then he's like, you're gonna come out as La Muerte during you're just gonna come out during that dance. And I was like,
okay.
But you know what's amazing is that whenever I did those, it was easier for me to just feel because I was wearing a mask. And I was like, nobody knows who's under this mask. So if I look ridiculous, who cares?
Is it liberating in some ways?
Yeah.
With the mask?
Yeah. I feel like I could just, it's like another person takes over. It's kind of weird. And it's only like, even like when I do Katrina makeup, I feel like I'm wearing a mask because it's paint. Nobody can really, they see your face, but it's still like another person takes over. And I feel like a whole other character whenever I do things like that.
What do you think was the apex of your time with Grandeza Mexicana? Was there a specific moment where you thought like, oh, this is where it's at in a very unique way relative to everything else that I've done up to this point?
Like when I felt like at my highest? Oh yeah, definitely 2013. 2013. That year, fire. Because, you know, as a dancer, and I have to say this because dancers, I feel like we are really hard on ourselves. When you're in the dance world, there's a lot of pressure with competing against each other, and also when you're in a company and you have to maintain a certain weight, that's challenging. And I remember my weight would fluctuate because when I first started with Grandeza, I was a little on the heavier side because I had just started college and you're like,
Stressed.
yeah,
among
and
other
you're,
things.
and I was working, I was going to night school, and I was dancing, and so I would eat at when I could, but then when I joined well, that was before I joined. Once I was already in Grandeza, because I was dancing so much, I started losing weight, and I was, how can I say this? When I ended high school, I was thin, but I started college, and I was like, I blew up. And I was like, oh, I don't like who this is. Who is this girl in the mirror, you know? And yeah, when you see other dancers and they're like fit and like some are naturally thin, and you're like, oh, you know, like you start
Internalizing that?
yeah.
Okay.
And so in 2013, I remember I left. I had told the director that I had to leave because I was about to graduate and I just wanted to focus on school and you know, just get that over with and see where I was going to go next. And I said, and I want to come back. And I told him, when I come back, I'm going to be thin. Oh, you bet I was thin. I was determined. When I came back, I was so thin that people thought I was like, they were making rumors about me, they didn't realize I was working 2 times a day, 7 days a week. I was doing that. And
When you say working, you mean on the dance?
no, like
aspect of it?
working out. Like before I
Oh,
came
working out.
back,
Okay,
I was
got it.
working out because I was determined to lose weight, and
Mhm.
I had gotten down to like a really small size where I didn't even recognize myself, and I guess at a point I looked unhealthy. I was too thin, and then it gets to a point. I'm saying this for future dancers, don't do this. I didn't know when to stop. But I was not starving myself. I was just exercising and I wouldn't stop, and I just kept losing weight, and I was like, maybe I need to like tone it down and stop and gain a little more. But in 2013, I was so skinny. Like I was like, that's what I'm saying. Like I had so much energy, and all the costumes fit me so good, and I didn't have to have many alterations, and I just felt amazing. I just felt like, oh, this is great. I'm a dancer. I still feel like I'm a dancer, but I'm just a little healthier.
Right. Did you close off that year performing at Cerritos? I seem to remember seeing a photo from precisely 2013
Yeah,
where you played Maria.
yeah. Okay, so there was another girl that played Maria, and she was naturally thin. I don't think she could do it that day, so I got to play Maria. That's how thin I was, that I got to fit into her costume. Yeah.
So wait, when did you find out? Was it a very last minute thing?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know why she couldn't do it. I don't remember why, but it wasn't like a big, like I've seen it before. We had done it a few years prior.
Uh-huh.
So when I was in Maria, like we would play the peregrinos that walk in with the candles. So I kind of knew the whole bit. I knew what we had to do. It's when they're singing Ave Maria, when Lupe's singing, and Fernando. And but it was just such an honor because I got to do that one twice. I did it in San Bernardino and at the Cerritos, and that's where they took the picture. And the guy that was my partner, his name is Adrian. So Adriana, he's Adrian.
Oh, that's so cute.
And he is amazing. I love him. He's an amazing actor. He's an amazing, he makes costumes. He's made a lot of costumes for Grandeza. He's helped with choreo. He's amazing. And to have him there, and he photographs, I don't know who took that picture, but that picture was like, oh, yes. It was really nice.
So you performed twice with them that year? With Sol, I mean.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
thinking about it.
You said San Bernardino
Yeah.
and Cerritos. Okay, so it was those two performances.
Because they used the whole company. It was when we did the San Bernardino, they used our companies. It wasn't just one dancer. You know how in Riverside I was just by myself
Yes.
for that one. And we danced that year. For the San Bernardino, we did like a Tamaulipas, like a Huapango. Yeah, because I remember wearing I love the Tamaulipas outfit. The one for Grandeza, it's yellow with black. And I have a picture. And I have a picture wearing it. I'm like, ah.
So then, when 2014 came along, were you still riding that
that momentum and that inertia, or did things start to slowly change? I think you left the group in 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Officially, and then I came back briefly.
Oh,
A few
okay.
years later, yeah. So I left. Yeah, 2014 was good. That's when I got introduced to being La Muerte. That's when it started.
Mhm.
That's when the whole Lila thing happened. So we did a show called, what was it called? It was very centered on Dia de los Muertos.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember the name of the show. But that year, and I know it's not related, but it made me feel like that year I lost like 3 loved ones, all within like the same, like month after month after month. It was
Oh.
either, it was a friend, it was an uncle, it was, like not like close, but family and friends. And I was like, I kind of was like, why is it? Because I'm La Muerte? Like I felt like it was like a curse or something. I took that very
to heart.
Yeah, because, I don't want to cry.
That's okay.
I had visited one of the friends in the hospital, and then she.
So did you, at that point, make a decision to not play that character anymore, or how did that affect your relationship to that role, those events?
Ever since then, I keep playing her. I keep playing La Muerte. So she hasn't left. I'm still her. Like, I've done it I've done it with Las Cafeteras too. She's called La Catrina over there. I'm like, over there, she's La Catrina. But I've embraced that character, to be honest, because death is a part of life. And I now know that it wasn't my fault. But at that time, I was feeling like it was my fault because I was that character. And I went to go visit her. And then all of a sudden, the month after, my uncle died. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, and then the month after that, and it was right before the show. But it helped because while we're doing the show, the pieces that we were doing, I was able to connect. So I was able to, knowing who La Catrina is and seeing what the afterlife that we were representing, and then the people going to visit their loved ones, it was just...
Was it almost cathartic?
Yes. Exactly that, yeah.
And then those last few years with the group, what made you decide to, open up a different chapter in your story, as it were, as a performer?
That's a good question. Because part of me didn't feel ready to leave, but it was something that I had to do. I was seeing I want to say I was one of the only original members left. Everybody else was like newer generations that were coming in, but from the females, I should say from the females, because the males, my friend Isaac was there. I think he just left. I don't know, he's probably still lingering. But because Isaac and I joined together. We were from the traditional group. I met him where I started.
When you were kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he wasn't a kid. I was,
Okay.
I was a kid. Sorry, Isaac. Yeah. But we both went to Grandeza together. We started there together. And when I left, there was some personal things going on in my life. And that was also a factor that was, I had to deal with that.
You had to attend to that?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was, when you feel this energy that's telling you, okay, you've been here, but ya es tiempo. Ya te tienes que ir, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was that energy, even though I was like, my heart was like, no, I want to keep dancing. I need to dance because dance makes me so happy. But yeah, it was something that was, I had that personal thing going on, and I had to see what else was out there.
I read in the interview that I showed you the other day, I don't even know if you remember, you did that with Vogue LA,
Yeah.
that you decided to pursue acting at that time. Did that have something to do with the decision to move on, or was that kind of a separate thing?
That was
that pursuit?
That was a separate thing because I had already done. I started doing acting, on and off. I want to say, yeah, around 2012 was when I said I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna do this. So
By this you mean acting?
no,
Oh,
by
or
this
like-
I mean I used to work at an elementary school and I quit. I said I'm done because I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be stuck here and do the same thing over and over. And the beauty of acting is you get to be a different character every day.
Mm-hmm.
You get to explore different realms, and you know it's just endless. The possibilities are endless, and I love that. Rather than to do a routine every single day, like I get bored, to be honest. And I love the kids. I love working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
But teaching them dance, I don't love like in the classroom and like
Like the lesson
Okay.
planning aspect of it? I felt the same way when I was a
Yeah.
tutor. I hated lesson planning, but I love the children.
Yeah, the kids are great and they're so honest. They're like-
Yes.
If you ever want to know something, ask a kid. They won't lie to you.
They most certainly won't.
And yeah, so when I started doing acting, it was around 2013. And that's another reason why I also got really skinny because the camera adds 10 pounds. So I hope this camera's not adding those 10 pounds. Yeah, so anybody watching, I'm thinner in person.
So what sort of gigs were you landing at the time that made you think, okay, like I can do this?
For acting,
Yes, for acting.
so this is what I did.
Mhm.
I went into central casting
Mhm.
to learn what it's like to be on set. So I started doing background work.
Mm.
And that opened up many doors because, well, clearly not. I'm still here, right? So it hasn't opened that many. But in the sense of like, it opened up my eyes to what it's like to be on set.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how they work. I learned their terminology and how to act on set, because you have a lot of people that are so unprofessional on set, even though they're clearly telling you what to do. And you know, you have to work together, especially if you have a big crew and a lot of background. They have to, you know, follow the rules. Otherwise, we're gonna be there all day. They have to reshoot, and and you have to be consistent. So if anybody's going into acting, you must follow directions and be consistent and know how to do certain things. Otherwise, you're just gonna be there all day. And I feel bad for the crew and the set and the directors, everybody, and the makeup, because they're like, another take, you know? But I learned, I got to work on many shows. I got to see a lot of actors. My favorite one was working on, oh my God, what was it called? It was with Don Cheadle and Kristen Bell. They were lawyers in the show.
Mm.
What was it called? I don't know. Point is, I would work with them every day. I was a lawyer. And I would go to set. And I would, you know, it's just plain like you're a lawyer. And I'm walking around with my papers. And I would see myself on the show. Like, you could, like, whoever knows me, some people have spotted me on Dexter. I'm on season 13, I think. And we shot that in Long Beach. It's supposed to be Miami.
Oh, close to home.
Yeah.
then. Okay.
And I was on Revenge. You see me there as well. They shoot here in Manhattan Beach. They used to shoot here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a studio in Manhattan Beach. There's another one where you see me very, very clearly on Jane the Virgin. I'm in a baby shower scene.
Oh, okay.
That one was really fun because I got to meet all the actors, like Gina Rodriguez
Yes.
and Jaime Camil.
Yes.
Super sweet man. ¿Cómo se llama el otro?
Justin Baldoni?
He's también. He was nice. He was a nice man.
So when you would see yourself on the screen after the fact, because sometimes I think I've seen you post about this. Sometimes the scenes get cut out. and there's X amount of work that you do, and then you don't make it.
That was more recent, yes.
But
So,
when you do make the cut, and you see yourself, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where you're like this.
yeah.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, because there was another, so that year I played a nurse.
Which is that year?
Okay, so that year was, I want to say 20, we shot that 2019.
Jane the Virgin? Or which
no,
one?
no, no. The one where the scene was cut off. It's a movie. It's
Okay,
a
it's
film.
a movie. It's a film.
But it didn't come out until 2021 because of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
So we shot it, and I just saw that it was out because for the longest they're like, oh, we're gonna give you IMDb cred, because I had an IMDb profile, but I took it out because I haven't been doing acting recently. So you won't see my picture, but you see everything I've done. It says all the films I've been
seen
in.
that. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it came out. I was like, let me see you. Let me go see my scene. Cut me out. I played a nurse at the beginning, and I remember when I saw the scene with the mom, I was like, that's my scene. And I was all getting excited. I was at the edge of my chair. I was like, I'm gonna record it. I was like, what the heck? I was like, where am I? But my friend came out in it. That day I made a new friend, and he's also vegan. I'm vegan, by the way. And he's been doing a lot of acting. He lives in New York now. And he came out twice. I was like, oh, well, good for him, you know? He's very handsome. He looks great on camera. But I was just so sad because I was like, oh, they got a good shot of me, you know? Because you see the cameras and you see them and one of the shots I was pretending to like inject the IV into her or something. I was trying to be a nurse. But yeah, that same year, I did another film. It was a Hallmark film. And I'm in the beginning scene. So I'm a nurse.
Again.
Yes. And I'm walking into the scene, and I'm like taking notes of her vitals. And the girl, she was in a coma, and she wakes up, and I'm like, and I run out, but they they dubbed my voice. So I could have said the line, you know, like it was an easy line, like 2 words, but it's also because of, you know, I'm not a SAG actress yet. That has a lot to do with it. They have to pay you more if you say a line.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So
Por
I didn't-
ahorrarse una lana. They
Mhm.
dubbed it. Wow.
So I was like, that's not my voice. Even my prima who's an actual nurse, she was all proud. She recorded it for me because at the time I didn't have Hallmark. It was a Hallmark channel. And she's like, oh my God, my prima, she's a nurse. She's like, prima, that's not your voice. I'm like, I know. But that was cool. And then if anybody ever goes to the hospital in East LA, like near, that's in Boyle Heights. It's near El Eastside Love. You know that hospital right near Eastside Love?
I'm not familiar with this place.
You know where they do remember where they do the mariachi plaza?
Oh, yeah. I know that. I'm very familiar with that plaza in Boyle
Okay.
Heights.
So right there's a hospital.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Yes.
So if you're ever there and you get a brochure, you're gonna see this face.
In the brochure?
Because I was a nurse.
Wow.
A lot of people have seen me on there too. They send me the photo. They're like, "Is this you?" I'm like, "Yeah."
So is there a specific kind of role that you would like to play in the future? You play so many nurses and...
I know, right? I didn't ask to play a nurse, to be honest. I would love. You know how they did La La Land?
Yes.
I wish that would have been me. That I would
Emma
have
Stone?
been Mia's character. I won't say Emma Stone
Oh.
because I wouldn't want to be Emma Stone, but I would want to be Adriana Rafaela as the character Mia in LA in La La Land. With Ryan Gosling, why not? I mean, he's all right. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I've been told that I look like Eva Mendes. So
Yes.
with Ryan, that's realistic. I'm just kidding. I love Eva Mendes. I met her, and I don't think I look like her at all.
Oh, okay.
She's amazing. She's just as tall as I am. Very thin. Gorgeous. Yeah.
So what is it about Mia's character in La La Land that catches your attention that makes you feel like, oh, I could be Adriana
Okay.
in a way that is similar or
Because everything she was doing when she was going to her auditions, I can totally relate because I've had many of those auditions where you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get the part. And then you don't get the part. And what I love about that is also, it's not just Mia, it's the whole film in particular where I love the costumes. You get to sing, you get to dance. That's
those
the
are all
type
things
of
you do.
Yes, those are things that I love. I would love to be in a musical. Like, I don't want to do musical theater. I'm not opposed to it, but I want to do a musical on film because I love film.
So something like would Wicked be an example of that? Okay.
I mean, theater is great, actually. I'm not gonna knock that out of because, to be honest, getting dressed up every day to put on a show, it's amazing. It's like you sit there and you're like, wow, I'm getting paid to do what I love. And I know that feeling because when I've gone on tour with Las Cafeteras, basically what we're doing, like I'm playing La Catrina and we're going to different cities, different venues, and it's like you put on the makeup and then you wake up in a different city the next day and you get to do it all over again. And that's pretty amazing. And you stop and you think and you're like, thank you, God. Like, I'm doing what I love. And even though it's for a short period of time because that's seasonal, we do that only for the...
Is this with Lupita Infante?
She did the first show. She did the first one. That was when we were just doing the California tour, mainly here in Arizona. But not last year, but the year before that, we were in the Midwest.
I saw that.
Yeah, and Lupita didn't get to do that one, but you know, I really liked having her there because she's my friend. You know, like how would you? I love working with my friends, and like also like Jasmine.
Did you grow up together?
We did not grow up together.
When did you meet? I'm so curious.
Lupita and I met, I want to say, 2011. So we have a mutual friend.
Okay.
I met her through a mutual friend that, oh my God, it's like a full circle moment. I'm gonna get to it. Lupita used to sing at this fair in Gardena. And the person in charge, Don Carlos, his daughter and son, we used to dance Folklorico together.
Oh, okay.
So one day, Kathy, she invited me. She was like, hey, Adriana, you want to come?
Kathy?
Kathy is the daughter.
The daughter of Don Carlos.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm over here. I'm like my mother. She always talks to me about people that I don't know.
En Perengana,
I'm like, Mom,
¿quiénes son?
who are they?
Tu prima, ¿cuál? Tengo bien muchas.
Right? Todas se llaman Lupita.
O María Guadalupe. María something. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So Kathy.
Let me rephrase. So Kathy and Carlos Jr. used to dance Folklorico with me. Oh, I love the bubbles.
I love this too.
Yes. And Don Carlos Sr., they're in charge of the entertainment aspect in the Gardena Fair. And when I showed up one day, this was when I was on sabbatical from dance. I wasn't dancing at the time. They're like, Adriana, ven a ¿quieres venir a la feria? And then Don Carlos was like, oh, ven a conocer a Lupita. I was like, okay. And because Don Carlos was really good friends with Lupita's dad, Pedro Infante Jr. So that's how they know each other. And I met her and I was like, oh my God, she's super sweet. She's very humble. And, you know, that was the first time we met and she sang for everybody. And her mom was there and her tias were there. And after that, like I ran into her again in Downey because she's from Downey. And I was performing at Grandeza Mexicana because Kathy had told her, Adriana's a Folklorico dancer. She's like, oh, okay. So and when I was in her hometown doing the Dia de los Muertos show, I ran into her and I was like, hey. And she's like, and she was sitting in the audience like watching. And she's like, oh my God, was that you? I was like, yeah, that was the mask. Remember I told
Right,
you
the mask.
nobody knows. And so I was like, yeah, that was me. I was the main girl with the mustache. She's like, oh my God. So I have a picture. Do you want to see the picture
Yes.
from that day? Oh, it's probably gonna
Send
take
me
a while.
like a few of them
You want me to do that later?
Yeah, later.
Okay, I'll send you. I don't know if she.
so I can put it in.
I don't know if
and
she's
put-
gonna
and
like the
put them in the
photo.
video.
We weren't like looking nice
Dolled
or
up?
anything.
Okay.
No. But anyway, and after that, no, I just started going to her shows. Like every time she had a show, we like kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever she would always put on the shows, especially for her grandpa Pedro Infante, and like I would always go. I would always be like, you know, supporting her because she's an independent artist. Like, why
Mhm.
would you not support your friends? You know, and yeah, and we just then when we found out her birthday's the day before mine, so we're both like Aquariuses, and I was like, ah,
Wait, when is Aquarius?
Aquarius.
Oh, you're right. Wait, hold on. Don't tell me. February 9th and the 8th?
No.
Are you the 9th and she's the 8th? Or are you
No.
the... Damn.
That's because
It's on camera.
it's actually February 1st and 2nd.
Oh, okay.
She's the first, I'm the second.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I don't know, I love her. She's such an amazing person. She invited me to her first album release when she was. Do you remember where there was a restaurant called Don Chente, but in downtown?
Don Chente in downtown. I'm not familiar.
It used to be right across the street from the Staples Center.
It will always be the Staples Center
Yeah.
to me. It's Crypto Arena now,
Yeah.
but those of us who remember, we call it the Staples Center to this day.
When it was a Staples Center,
Mhm.
the Don Chente was right across the street, up on the roof.
Mhm.
She had her album released there for something. I can't think of the title. La Amargura, something La Amargura.
Mhm.
Sabor de la Amargura.
Okay.
That's I fell in love with that song. And I told her, oh my God, I love that song. And I tell her whenever there's a song that's really like, sometimes she'll play them for me,
Mhm.
like before they're out. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this one. You know? And I'm like, oh, this is good too. Like, it's kind of hard to choose sometimes. But yeah, I'm always very honest. And the all-time favorite of hers that I love is Ya Ni Me Acuerdo.
Mm.
And that one, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, I cried. It just the way she sang it, there was something in her voice.
Mhm.
And then she told me the backstory. She's like, that was actually my dad's song. That he recorded that song
Oh,
first.
okay.
And I was like, oh, it made me cry.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about is there's some quirky similarities, like with you and Willie. You were telling me this is Guillermo Acuña, the harpist for Sol. There's something about the birthdays. I was just thinking about that now when you talked about you and Lupita Infante's birthday being
Yes.
right next to each other. And you explained this to me the night that we met at Chelas in Santa Cecilia. I don't remember though. And you
Okay.
reiterated this the day of the Super Bowl as well. But who's Ralph? Someone named Ralph and the birthdays. And go ahead.
So
What's the math on that?
so Willie and I, Guillermo Acuña,
Acuña, harpist for Sol de
harpist
Mexico.
for Sol de Mexico, has been my hermano for years since we met, because when I met him, we were talking. This was back because I met him with Grandeza Mexicana because he used to play with Cuicatlan with Checo Alonso.
Sergio Alonso, yeah.
Yeah.
Camperos,
Yeah.
harpist. Mhm.
So back in the day, they had, and Mary, do you know Mary Alfaro?
Yes.
She was a part of Cuicatlan. Like it was this
Uh-huh.
mariachi they were amazing when they worked with Grandeza, honestly.
Mhm.
That's where I met Willie. And while we were just talking, I knew he was a big Dodger fan.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, my brother's name is Willie. Pero Wilfrido, not Guillermo, but Wilfrido, we call him Willie.
Mhm.
And he was Willie, and he was a big Dodger fan. And I was like, oh, my brother's a big Dodger fan too. He's like, oh yeah. And then I don't know how it came about, but he's like, my birthday's March 12th. And I was like, that's my brother's birthday.
That's Willie's birthday?
Willie's, Guillermo, Willie, his birthday's March 12th.
Just like your brother.
And my brother is March 12th. I was like, oh my God. And Lupita's husband is March 12th.
Oh my God.
I just thought about that right now. But I was like, oh my God. I was like, and I don't know how, I don't know how it came up, but then I was like, mine's February 2nd. He's like, that's my brother's birthday. His brother's name is Rafael.
Mhm.
My
Oh,
middle
and
name
yours?
is Rafaela.
What?
So
That's
when we
ridiculous.
when we
In a
found
good
that
way.
out, he's like, "Hermana." I'm like, "Hermano." So we had that bond because of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adriana, for taking the
Thank
time to be here today.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now I finally know the math on that. It's Ralph and Rafaela and Willie. And